Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's Justin Plays here. Your boy, Justin Plays. Anyways, we are going to be starting a new series. I know we haven't really finished the other one, but why not start a second one? Because we just can. So, anyways, we're going to be starting a new series, and basically it's going to be about how to basically play as every single bomber in the game instead of the other series, which is how many times it takes to take out one. And this video is just about how to take off and land in a bomber, and I will show you the right way and the wrong way. But anyways, let's get straight into the video, and hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure if you leave a like, make sure if you leave a like, make sure to leave a like if you do, and subscribe if you enjoy my content. But anyways, like I said, let's hop into the video.
Alright, so we're going to be starting with taking off here. Now, taking off in heavy bombers, it's not the hardest thing in the world. It's a little hard if you don't take off from heavy bombers a lot, but it's fairly simple, to be honest. All you got to do is, as I'm about to show you, is basically you're just going to let your speed build up, and you'll see it in the top left, and once it reaches about 120, then you can start tilting the plane upward a little bit. But you don't want to tilt it too far, because that tail part, if you tilt it anymore, it'll break because it'll hit the ground. But basically what you want to do is you want to just keep it in that same position, tilted upward, and it'll basically lift itself off the ground. And that is basically the proper way to take off. And you don't want to use flaps. Flaps are just going to slow you down. It's going to take longer to take off. Trust me, because I'm going to show you an example of what happens, what I see a lot of players do. So we got the regular taking off right here. We got the flaps engaged here in a second. I think they're engaged right now. Yeah. But you got the flaps engaged, and then what's going to happen is I'm going to start tilting upward because I'm looking at the speed up there, and it says about 120, and I think, okay, I can take off now. And what a lot of kids do is that'll happen, they'll break their tail, and then basically the plane will just spin out and break. And that's basically what's going to happen, and I see a lot of players do that. So basically, from taking off is just don't use flaps and don't pull up too early. Just let the plane go on its own. Now, moving on to landing. Landing, also fairly simple. It's not too hard. Basically, you just gotta use your flaps. Flaps when landing is what you need. You need flaps when landing, but you don't want them when taking off, because depending on it kind of also depends on if you're going fast when you're coming in for the landing, because if you're going like 200 when you're coming in to land, then definitely use flaps, because they'll create wind resistance, which is what you want when you're trying to slow down and not basically overdo it. And see, I engaged the flaps here, and you basically just want to glide it in very smoothly, and you want to move the throttle up and down a lot and just kind of get that good speed, and you just basically gently touch it down onto the runway, and you'll have a pretty good landing. And you also want to use your rudder. You see at the bottom right corner. If you feel like you're going too fast and you want to just hurry up and stop and get out of the way because somebody else is coming into land or something like that, then just use the flaps and go the rudder. I'm sorry, not the flaps, the rudder, and go basically from side to side, and it'll slow you down. And then there you go, you have a successful landing. Now, there are two ways that I see players land, and it may not be a lot of players because I hardly ever see players use heavy bombers in this game. Could be just because I play arcade a lot, but what I see a lot of them do is it's two errors that they do. They either do this first one where they don't use flaps at all, and they don't, they basically they don't let themselves slow down. They don't use the rudder, and they don't use the flaps. And what happens is they come in for a rough landing, and then without using the rudder, they just continuously move along, and they just wait for their plane to come to a stop without using anything, which you're going to see why that's incorrect in a second, because basically what happens is this is a long runway too, and what would happen if you didn't use flaps and you didn't use your rudder is you'd just continuously move along, and you'd eventually overshoot the runway, and you'd just basically but you'd basically just continue running up into the hill. And that's one error that I haven't seen too many players do, but it's very common. Now, the second one, yes, this one you could be using flaps, meaning the player could be using flaps, which is, great, because as you saw, they were coming in a little bit hot here in the beginning. But what you're going to notice is they started diving down. Like, I see a lot of players dive down too early, and you see the flaps working and the speed at the top. It looks like everything's going just as planned, but they continue to go too low, and then they try to pull up last minute because they think, oh, I'm going to fall. And what happens is at the top of the screen, you see it says too slow, stalling, push nose down, and then basically what will happen is the player will just bounce off the ground and stall out and basically just rip the plane into pieces. And that's another error that I see a good amount of players do. But yeah,